Hi guys, today I'm going to tell you a story time on the worst date ever. Like, horrible. Okay, so it started off when I first met the guy. Like, I was at the tattoo shop, so I was getting a new tattoo. And he just like kept staring at me. I'm like, okay, can he stop staring at me? And I was with my mom, because at this time I was 18, but she still went with me. And so he like walked up to us, and he like, first he was talking to my mom. He was like, "Oh, is it okay if I ask for her number?" And I'm like, I guess that was polite to ask my mom, because he asked for my number because I looked young, but I don't know. And she was like, "Oh, I don't care." So I gave him my number, and he started texting me like an hour later. Excuse me, like an hour later, and he like, "Oh, you're so beautiful. This, that. He like, "Oh, I want to take you out." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." He like, "When are you available?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm available whenever." This was when like I first moved to Atlanta, and I really wasn't doing anything, so I didn't have a job yet or wasn't in school yet. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, you can take me out whenever." So he like, "Okay, how about tomorrow?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." But he told me he was 26, and I'm like, I'm 18, he's 26. I'm like, I never give people a chance. So I'm like, I'll give him a chance. And then I told my mom how old he was, and she was like, "Oh, he's too old. You shouldn't go out with him." And my sister was like, "Oh no, let her go. Might as well let her give him a chance. You never know. He might not be that bad. Whatever. So we were texting that day. And he was like, "Oh, what time do you want me to pick you up?" I'm like, "Oh, you can come whenever. I guess like at 8. He didn't get there until 9. I'm like, okay. And he was like a really big guy. He didn't get there until 9. I didn't know what car he was in. He was like in a really small car to say he was a big guy. So mom's like, "Oh, hold up. Let me take a picture of his license plate number just in case." I'm like, okay. So she took a picture of his license plate number just in case anything happened. So I got in a car with him. And he was like, "Oh, hi." I'm like, "Hi." He like, "Oh, it's good to see you." Blah, 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 blah. And we was just talking and stuff on the way to the movie. We weren't really talking that much. Like, I'm really a quiet person, so I don't really talk that much. But he was talking a lot, so it kind of like brought me out a little bit. And when we got to, everything was fine until we got to the movies. When we got to the movies, he was impatient. He didn't want to wait in a line. Like, "Oh, the line is too long." So he tried to go on the inside and buy the tickets. And the guy was like, "Oh, you can't buy the tickets here," which is very obvious. But I'm just standing like, hey, whatever, he might know. So we had to go back and stand in line. There was like a group of like kids, some teenage boys. They weren't teenage, like preteen boys. And they were like horsing around, playing and stuff. And he like got an attitude at them and like yelled at them because they weren't going to the line to get their ticket. Like, they're little kids. Like, leave them alone. You're a grown man. So that was like straw one. I'm like, okay, whatever. We're already here. So he chose the movie. We went to go see Terminator or something. I don't know what it was called. But I actually really liked the movie. And then we got in. He was like, "Oh, do you want anything?" I'm like, "Oh, I'll just get some popcorn." He paid for everything, of course. And then we got, he was being impatient about standing in line to get food too. He was like, "Oh, I'm hungry, but I don't want to stand in this line, da 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 da." He kept sweating. Like, I don't like sweat. I don't know, it's gross. And he just kept sweating. I don't understand why, but he kept sweating. And we ordered the food, and like, his food was taking too long. So the girl told him that if he told her he'd tip her if she just like bring it in the theater to us. So that's what he did. And I'm eating my popcorn. I'm like, my popcorn's done. So we went into the movie. Oh, and then he also had a problem with it was like a 3D movie, like the IMAX. He had a problem with the glasses, because they try to give you used glasses. And he was like, "No, I can't use any used glasses," which is kind of like a sanitary thing, but like, you could have just used the used glasses. It didn't matter. The people only probably didn't have them on for that long, so we got new glasses because he couldn't use the old ones. And then we got in the movie. We're watching the movie, everything's fine. Then he's like, "Oh, I have to use the bathroom." Nothing's wrong with anyone having to use the bathroom. He was gone for like 30 minutes. I didn't mind that because I was watching a movie, but literally 30 minutes. Like, It didn't take that long for you to use the bathroom. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was on the phone with somebody. I don't know. But 30 minutes is a long time to be gone from a date, and it's the first date. And but the girl had already brought his food, and he like tipped her or whatever. And then he didn't. When he came back, he was still eating. He didn't finish all his food. He's like, "Oh, do you want my fries?" I'm like, "I love fries. Even if I'm full, I'm going to accept some fries." So he gave me his fries, and then he told me I eat a lot. Like, excuse me? How are you going to tell me I eat a lot? That's so rude. That was like straw. I don't know, 2 or 3? Not for sure. So we just watched it. We finished watching the movie. And it's like, he didn't understand the movie either. Like, you're the one who brought me to this movie, but you have no clue what's going on. Like, I had to explain the movie to him. And this was my first time ever watching a Terminator movie. So then it was time to leave. When we was leaving, it was no problem. But on our way back to my house, he was like asking me all these questions, like, "Oh, what do you do?" and this and that. I'm like, "Oh, I'm a college student. I did a semester of college, and I'm going back." And he's like, "Oh, that's good." And he wouldn't tell me what he did. Like, one minute he said he sold art. The next minute he said he was a personal trainer. The next minute he said he was in the army. I have no clue what this guy did. And I'm just like, oh, whatever. At this point, I just didn't like him. I did not care. And then he's like, "Oh, you're beautiful. This is that. I would love to wake up to you every morning." Okay. Like, at this point, I don't even like you, so you don't have a chance to wake up next to me every morning. And he's like, "Oh, do you have a fake ID? So I'm going out tonight, and I was wondering, did you want to go with me?" I'm like, "No, I don't have a fake ID." They're like, "Oh, I'm going to see if I can find you one. So I want to take you out with my homegirls. My homegirls going to like you. They like girls. They going to like you." Why would you take me around your homegirls that like girls and going to like me if you like me? Not saying that they can take me away from you, but you never know. And he was just saying, like, kind of start saying inappropriate stuff that I wasn't really feeling. Like, this is my first time meeting you. You shouldn't be talking like that. But I'm just letting it all slide. And now we're back at my house. We're like sitting outside. And he was like, he basically was trying to get me to kiss him. And I'm like, "No, I'm not finna kiss you. No, sir. No, sirree. No." And then he was like, I'm like, he said something, I forgot. And I'm like, "Oh, most of the time I do the opposite of what people tell me to do." So he's like, "Oh, don't kiss me right now." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm not." And I got out the car. And he got out the car with me, and he gave me a hug and said, "Oh, I would like to see you again." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." So that was the end of it. And I kind of thought maybe I was being mean because I'm kind of like antisocial sometimes. And I don't really like to deal with people all the time. Well, it's not that I don't like to deal with people. It's just I'm shy. And he texted me the next day. Or was this the next day or the same night? Something like that. He texted me and said, "I'm horny." Like, why would you text me that? Like, I told him we was in a car, I'm not into all of that stuff. Like, don't come at me like that. So I feel like that's very disrespectful. And I never replied to him again. And he never texted me back either. I guess he knew, like, he really messed up. Like, that was way too far. Like, you do not know me. Do not say something to me. Like, I don't know if that's just me. Like, if anybody can agree with me. Like, that's rude to tell somebody that you just met, "Oh, I'm horny." What did that have to do with me? Go find someone else. But yeah, that was my worst date ever. Like, that was just horrible. He was horrible. And to say he was so old, he was kind of like jerky. But yeah, that was my first date in Atlanta. Oh yeah, and there was something else he said. He was like, "Girl, I bought this new outfit just for you." The outfit didn't look new, for one. And for two, like, you didn't have to say that. Like, if you look nice, you look nice. You didn't have to tell me that you bought an outfit for me. But whatever. But that's the end of my story time. I hope you guys enjoyed my worst dates. Bye.